You're standing atop a mountain made entirely of trophies. Each golden statue gleams in the sunlight, each plaque etched with your name, each certificate attesting to another success. In theory, you should feel accomplished, pride surging through your veins. Yet in the pit of your stomach, you sense an unsettling hollowness. It's almost like waking from a dream in which you had everything, only to wonder why none of it feels real. How can a mountain of achievement still leave you feeling unfulfilled? Isn't success supposed to be the ultimate remedy for self-doubt and existential angst? From a young age, you're told, work hard, achieve more, then you'll be happy. It sounds logical, almost unquestionable. But look around. How many people are drowning in accolades, job titles, or social media milestones, yet remain deeply anxious or strangely empty? You see it in the forced smiles of corporate executives, in the weariness of influencers chasing fleeting online validation, in the restless hearts of those who've climbed the ladder only to ask, is this it? Here's the paradox. If success truly satisfied, why do so many high achievers feel incomplete? Why does the applause fade into a kind of quiet despair, gnawing at the corners of their minds? It's as though each achievement leads not to a sense of peace, but to an even deeper thirst for more. The endless cycle continues. Achieve, celebrate briefly, fall back into emptiness, repeat. Is the problem with success itself, or is it something far subtler that lurks behind our relentless pursuit of it? Right now, you might be sensing that subtle pull in your own life, an unspoken fear that all the badges you've earned might not be filling the real void inside. This is the tension at the heart of our journey, the quiet epidemic of empty achievements. But don't be fooled. This isn't about abandoning goals or denouncing the value of hard work. It's about uncovering a deeper layer beneath the surface of success. For in this deeper realm, something far more profound and far more troubling awaits us. Why does this emptiness exist in the first place? Psychologically, it's often tied to the concept of extrinsic versus intrinsic motivation. When you chase achievements mainly to feed external validation, you're standing on shaky ground. Carl Jung once observed that the human psyche craves individuation, a process of integrating all aspects of the self into a coherent whole. When society pressures you to measure worth in trophies and accolades, you can become alienated from this essential inner journey. Friedrich Nietzsche, with his piercing existential insights, questioned the nature of values imposed by society. He might argue that your achievements are only empty if their worth is decided for you by external norms, like finishing a checklist that someone else designed. Arthur Schopenhauer, too, would remind you of the never-ending nature of desire. Achieving one goal simply paves the way for the next craving, trapping you in a perpetual chase. It's like you're climbing a ladder with no top rung, forever reaching, yet never arriving. Consider Aldous Huxley's concern about a world distracted by trivialities. In a society saturated with instant gratification, achievements become superficial markers that feed an endless cycle of stimulation rather than genuine fulfillment. If you're living in a cultural system that exalts constant progress without introspection, you start to lose connection with the deeper questions. Who am I? What do I truly want? Am I chasing these goals because they speak to my soul or because they grant me social currency? Jean-Paul Sartre adds another dimension, the weight of existential freedom. You exist first, without inherent meaning, and only then define yourself through your choices. So, if your choices are primarily driven by an urge to impress, you risk drowning out the authentic call of your own essence. You end up curating a persona of success rather than heeding the internal voice that whispers your deeper purpose. Each award, each promotion, each moment of applause begins to feel more like a performance than a lived truth. Then there's Viktor Frankl, who found meaning even in the darkest human experiences. According to Frankl, meaning doesn't sprout from stacking up achievements. It blossoms from how you face adversity, how you connect to others, and how you serve a purpose larger than yourself. When your sense of self-worth hinges on a medal or certificate, you're relinquishing control over your own sense of meaning. It's like handing the pen of your life story over to someone else, letting them author your worth. The modern world amplifies this distortion. Endless scrolling through social media reveals a million new ways to compare yourself. If my friend just got a promotion, shouldn't I get one too? If that influencer is traveling the world, shouldn't I do the same? The result is a silent battle within your mind, fought on a battlefield of likes, comments, and fleeting affirmations. Underneath the polished exterior of success, a quiet storm rages, a storm fueled by insecurity, envy, and a nagging sense that none of this is truly enough. And so, the hidden problem becomes clear. You're taught to climb the mountain, but rarely taught to ask why. You're enticed to celebrate the triumphs, but seldom invited to probe the emptiness that might lie beneath. The questions swirl in your head. What am I really pursuing? What if the milestones I chase don't lead to actual fulfillment? It's in these honest questions that the quiet epidemic reveals its stark reality and begs for a deeper exploration. Picture this. You've devoted years to reaching a certain job title. You get it. Your family congratulates you, and there's a brief moment of euphoria. But then, in the days that follow, a strange restlessness sets in, like you've stepped off a grand stage and the applause has died down. There's no next milestone in sight, and you feel a tingling anxiety that perhaps you're standing still while the world moves on. On a personal level, this leaves you susceptible to a host of psychological pitfalls. The more you tie your identity to external achievements, the more fragile your self-image becomes. One failure can send your sense of self-worth plummeting. You start associating who you are with what you produce. If that production slows, or if someone else surpasses you, you're thrown into disarray, questioning your very essence. And it doesn't end there. Your relationships can suffer too, because when achievements rule your life, genuine human connection can become secondary. From a societal perspective, the consequences are equally haunting. Imagine entire communities glorifying speed, efficiency, and tangible outcomes, while neglecting emotional depth, empathy, and moral reflection. Schools might churn out students more focused on grades than learning. Workplaces might reward output over well-being, leading to burnout and stress on an enormous scale. Over time, this cultural condition can morph into a silent epidemic, normalizing chronic dissatisfaction. No one pauses to ask if our shared goals even serve the deeper human good. Cognitive biases like the hedonic treadmill come into play. The hedonic treadmill suggests you adapt to new achievements quickly and crave something more, bigger, flashier, more impressive. Your brain becomes wired to chase the next dopamine hit, further entrenching you in a cycle of seeking external validation. Neurologically, the constant comparison on social media can hijack your reward system, making you crave likes and shares as proof of achievement. You become a hamster on a wheel, ceaselessly running for a reward that never truly satisfies. And let's not forget cultural conditioning. In many societies, there's an unspoken rule: you're only as good as your last success. This fosters hyper-competitiveness. Even collaborations can turn into rivalries, where people subtly vie for recognition instead of mutual growth. In extreme cases, this leads to unethical behavior, where the drive to achieve outweighs moral considerations. The ripples extend far beyond individual well-being. They warp societal values, prioritizing momentary acclaim over enduring meaning. Perhaps the worst part is how quietly all of this happens. You might go years without realizing how deeply ingrained this pursuit has become. The world hands you a checklist: graduation, job, home ownership, promotions, and you methodically cross items off, rarely wondering if those items reflect your true calling. The culture doesn't encourage asking that question. It rewards compliance and success. Meanwhile, An unsettling void continues to expand, like a shadow you can't quite outrun. You might ask, why should I care? Don't we need ambition to thrive? Indeed, ambition can be noble, but the tragedy lies in ambition misdirected, driven by fear, conformity, or shallow validation. That's the unseen trap. Achievements become empty, not because they lack inherent worth, but because they become detached from your authentic self. And until this realization dawns, you risk losing the very core of who you are in a flurry of accolades and applause. So, how do you shatter this illusion? It starts with a radical decision to rebel against the default script handed to you by society. You stop chasing achievements for the sake of achievement itself, and instead question each goal with ruthless honesty. Ask yourself, does this align with my deeper values, my real passions, or my long-term vision of a meaningful life? It's not about giving up on success. It's about reclaiming the narrative so success serves you rather than enslaves you. One counterintuitive approach is to welcome moments of emptiness, using them as a mirror for your genuine desires. When you feel that unsettling void after attaining a goal, don't immediately run to the next project. Sit with the discomfort. Let it teach you what truly moves your soul. When you refuse to mask emptiness with busyness, you're forced to confront the deeper questions you've been avoiding. This can be the first step toward rediscovering meaning. Historical examples abound. Think of the Stoics in ancient Rome, like Marcus Aurelius, who held immense power, yet constantly reminded himself that earthly accolades were fleeting. Or the transcendentalists like Henry David Thoreau, who left the hustle of society to live simply in nature, seeking something more profound than status or wealth. Their rebellion wasn't loud or defiant in the conventional sense. It was an inward turning, a deep introspection that challenged everything they'd been taught to value. Another technique is the power of conscious detachment. This doesn't mean apathy. It means you can pour your heart into a project without letting the outcome define your worth. By doing this, you preserve your sense of self, whether you succeed or fail. You become less like a leaf tossed about by external forces and more like a rooted tree, able to sway with storms, but remaining firmly grounded. Also, consider practicing daily reflection, journaling, or mindful solitude that forces you to check in with your values, your motivations, and your emotional state. When you document your wins, also document how they made you feel. Did a promotion really bring you joy, or just temporary relief from the fear of being less than? Over time, these reflections help you discern between achievements that genuinely expand your life's purpose and those that simply feed the ego. In building this new way of thinking, be prepared to face resistance. Society won't necessarily applaud your decision to step off the hamster wheel. Your friends might question why you're slowing down. Your workplace might not understand why you turn down a promotion that doesn't align with your deeper calling. Yet standing firm in your self-chosen path is the essence of true rebellion. It's how you carve out a life that's authentically yours, free from the gravitational pull of empty achievements. When you stand at this threshold, you might feel both liberated and uneasy. You are, after all, letting go of the very metrics that once validated you. But in doing so, you open the door to a different kind of fulfillment, one not measured by trophies or social standing, but by a quiet, unshakable sense of alignment with who you really are. Here it is, the moment where everything you've questioned converges into a single, life-altering insight. True fulfillment isn't about stacking achievements, but about living in harmony with your deepest convictions. You realize that empty achievements are only empty because they're severed from the thread of meaning that connects your soul to the world around you. The trophies, the accolades, and the applause were never the issue. The issue was allowing them to define you. In that moment of revelation, the emptiness you once feared transforms into fertile ground for genuine purpose. You see how your real worth cannot be contained by external markers. You feel a sense of freedom, an exhale of relief, as if you've just broken the shackles of an ancient curse. It's akin to an artist who paints not for the gallery, but because painting is as natural as breathing, or a scientist who explores not for fame, but out of pure curiosity about the universe's mysteries. This paradigm shift redefines your relationship with success. No longer is it a master demanding endless appeasement. It becomes a servant that aids your personal growth and contribution to the greater whole. Achievements can still bring joy, but the joy comes from the process, from growth, from authentic expression. You begin to understand that life is less about relentlessly climbing a mountain and more about cultivating a rich inner landscape. Each success, a flower blossoming of its own accord. When you reflect on past struggles, you see how the seeds of doubt and emptiness were actually guiding you. They were red flags, warning you that something was amiss, that your heart had been sidelined by social expectations. Now, you look upon those trophies and certificates with a gentle smile. They may still have a place in your life story, but they no longer consume you. They become mile markers on a journey rather than the final destination. In the end, you're left with a poetic sense of gratitude. Gratitude for the emptiness that forced you to look inward. Gratitude for the philosophical unrest that compelled you to question your path. Gratitude for the moments of quiet despair that led you here, to a space where you can breathe, exist, and flourish in alignment with your true self. The quiet epidemic of empty achievements loses its power the instant you shine this light of awareness upon it. And so, you stand at the edge of your new beginning. The trophies are still there if you want them, but they're no longer your reason for being. Instead, you move forward guided by a deeper compass, one that orients you toward meaning, love, creativity, and an authentic sense of purpose. In this cinematic finale, you realize that the final and most powerful revelation is simple yet profound. You are more than what you achieve. Life is more than the sum of accomplishments. And once you grasp this, you're free. Free to dream, free to create, and free to live in a way that makes your soul truly come alive.